How's everybody doing? My name is William Zhabowski. I'm a senior technical architect and JAMF administrator. I work for Hexaware/IQVIA. I've been working with Apple Macintosh computers and JAMF since the Casper days for over 20 years. I've also have worked as part of the Apple Consultants Network with the local Apple stores. Love doing scripting, love doing automated tasks. One of the things I always say is I have three mantras in how I work. Try to work lazy, hate working, and think different, similar to Apple. Work lazy is very simple. If always try to think about what you can do to make your life easier. Most of the time as an Apple admin, you are usually by yourself without having a team or a group of people. So you want to work in a way that kind of makes that so you don't have to have anything come back when you're in a bad position or when when you have another fire to put out. You want to do the hard work in the beginning. That way you can just push buttons later. So that's kind of working lazy. Hate working. They say when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So for me, I love doing this kind of work. I love coding. I love helping people. And to me, that's not work. That's fun. Working is when you don't take the time to do things the way they need to be done, and you wind up getting questions from supervisors or other people. Why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? Or you have to answer did you do this in your scope, or was this in your proof of concept? And so that takes a lot of work because you could have avoided that. So that's why I say hate working. And of course, just like with Apple, think different, think outside the box. You want to be able to look at things objectively and not focus on the exact piece you're looking at, but come up with a solution that kind of works. As a little fun fact, as my grandfather told me back in the day, we had, when I was younger, he taught me, he was an engineer, he taught me, he gave me an example. He said, let's take some wood, some nails, and a hammer. Let's take some thread, some material, and a sewing machine. And what is the difference between those two? And depending on who you talk to, they may give you different answers, but from an engineering standpoint, nothing. The material and the wood are both your medium that you're using. Your nails and your thread are your fasteners to hold things together, and the hammer and the sewing machine is the machine or the tool that puts it together. So if you break things down without looking at the actual object, you'll be able to think differently, think outside the box, because you're looking at the actual function of what's going on rather than focusing on the actual what you're looking at. But that's enough about me. Let's get started on the presentation. So picture it. You are a new JAMF admin in a new environment, brand new. You walk in, you're trying to figure out what the other admin's doing, not really sure. And we all know this look. We have our hands in our head like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? I'm sure a few of us have looked at some of the work that the past people have done and have been really confused in the situation, trying to figure it out. So, of course, what are we facing as a new admin? What is going on? Oh my God, what is here? What are the problems? What are the pain points we're having? Some of us get to that point. I don't even know where to start. This is so confusing. It's just such a big task. And, this can get very overwhelming when you walk into a new environment. But as they say, you can't eat the elephant in one bite, so you have to go a little bit at a time. As we're looking at it, we kind of think to ourselves, what did the previous JAMF admin set up? How is this even connected? We also try to look at things like, how is this organized? Naming conventions, organization. How is this even organized? What connects with what? What computers connect to what policies? How does this even work? What is the connected configuration profiles? What packages and scripts? Sorry, I missed that slide. What are the connected configuration profiles? What's connected to what? What target groups do we have? What exclusion groups do we have? What computers what are we scoping this to? We want to find out what scripts and packages are used or unused within packages, within pre-stage policies. We want to find out what's going on, where this is, where we can clean things up. We also want to find out the burning question: what is this costing me in time and labor to get this information? And it's just very, 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 very large amount of time. Actually, it does cost to do this when you're looking for information. So let's get into the nuts and bolts here. So in today's IT environment, managing resources with an eye toward efficiency and deployment and operability is more important than ever. We all know this. We all know that JAMF is a tool that we can use to minimize staff time spent configuring, maintaining, managing end user pieces. We also know that there needs to be consistency in this environment, and this consistency needs to be across the board throughout the life cycle of the workstation devices. As we all know, if there's not consistency, it's going to be very hard to script for one computer versus the second computer versus the third computer, because you don't really know what you're going to run into. We have a lot of variables: operating systems, hardware, what applications, what policies, what deployment methods we have, what deployment groups we use, what the device users have. And when you have more than one operating system, there may be differences in that. So we want to take all that into account and know that we want to try to clean up and standardize everything. This is where we struggle the most, because this information is required to create an action plan, and that is dependent on the data collection and its correlation that we're working together. Plenty of data is available from JAMF, but there's no built-in, well, there's built-in reporting, but there's no really good built-in reporting to present the data in correlation between all the individual components. You can pull out information, you can see everything in the different parts of the GUI, but to put it in one place where people that maybe aren't on your technical team is something that would be helpful when you're trying to clean up. It's a very manual task, and it consumes a lot of time and impacts the activities such as managing your OS and your application upgrades, troubleshooting your Mac issues, Mac OS assessments on what is on the Mac, your cleaning up of policies, your cleaning up of packages, your cleaning up of your deployment groups, or figuring out what deployment groups you have. This is all done to reduce the JAMF metadata impacting performance, and also so you can figure out what's going on in your environment. What I've come up with, and what I try to recommend to people, is to try to use a scripted solution via the API. The scripted solution that I have written is good for using cleanup activities. We can use it for troubleshooting issues because we can see what's there. There's some other benefits to scripted solution, like environmental snapshots before and after changing, internal training and knowledge base articles, the manual effort of saving time, reducing timeline of projects dependent on the environment or the current state of the environment or the cleanup activities. You can custom fit to the environment and possibly enhance for your future needs with this, with the script. And you can also reduce unexpected outages due to a change activity. I wrote the script in Python 3, so it's portable, so that way somebody can run it on a Windows machine and connect to the JAMF API, or on a Mac. And we use the API to get the information because the API is very powerful. And I assemble all the data in an Excel spreadsheet. Here's a diagram on to give you some relationship of the policies, configuration profiles, the computers, application packaging, OS, build, hardware info, etc., and how its correlation and consumed for reporting. We have JAMF computer info, hardware info, operating system info, user info, associated policies info, config profiles, target group IDs, how and how they're related to that. And we can consume them in a database or Excel or something like that for reporting to our higher managers. We have in JAMF computer info, we get, with the script, I pull out the computer info, the hardware info, the computer hardware file vault info, the local account info, the group membership, and the configuration profile info. The file vault info is to let you know what users are able to work on Open Firewall. The local account info uses a check with the JIM server to see if it's an actual LDAP account or if it's a local account. The computer's group membership that it's in, and also what computer config profiles that group the computer has. On the configuration profile, we grab the configuration profile info, target group info, target computer info, exclusion computer info, exclusion group. This way we get this all in one place. I also grab the policy info. So on the policy screen, we grab the policy info, whether the policy is in self-service or not, whether that policy has any scripts attached to it, whether that policy has any packages attached to it, what the target computers are, if there are any, what the target groups are, if there are any, what the exclusion groups are, if there are any, and then, of course, for computers, exclusion groups for computers as well. We look at the JAMF package usage info. Is this package used or not used in a regular policy? Is this package used or not used in a pre-stage policy? We also have to take note that that package can also be used in a definition in patch management. For the script usage, we check to see if the scripts are used or not used when we run the report. So now we're coming to the important part, since I've bored you with all the other stuff, that I think is really meaningful by trying to use a scripted approach to cleaning up the JAMF server, is the time data for running the script. So to return the data for one computer record, which is the information that we stated in the last slide, it's about 50 lines of information for the one that I ran. It took 1 minute and 10 seconds. That's from starting, entering the options, completing. To return data for the list of policy information, we had about 300 policies or maybe 250 policies or so that we ran on the demo server. That returned about 653 lines of information in an Excel spreadsheet. And the total time from starting that was, from start to finish, was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We have a list of configuration profile information that I mentioned before that we returned, which is about 200 configuration profiles, I think, approximately. It returned in the Excel spreadsheet 204 lines of information, and the total time from starting the script, selecting options, and scripting the answer, 1 minute and 5 seconds. To return the data from the list of packages information, we had a total of 110 packages, 110 lines of information. Each line was one package, and that took 1 minute and 15 seconds to return. To return the data from the list of scripts information, we had about 125 scripts, so it's one line per script. That took 1 minute and 30 seconds to return the entire list, whether it was used or unused in the Excel spreadsheet. So the total time to get the information that you need per computer, for one computer, the burning question is 20 to 30 minutes per computer to manually create all this information and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. We have a use case here that we set up that can give you some real-time data that we used at our own company. And so manually collecting the information and entering it into an Excel spreadsheet takes around 20 to 30 minutes per computer. We had a scope in our JAMF environment of 2,212 computers. So the total time that would be needed to generate the data at 20 minutes per computer, so we would take 20 minutes per computer times 2212 computers equals 44,240 minutes. We divide that by an 8-hour workday, and that's 92.6 days of work, plus time for coordination with your team, your change management process, which can take 3 to 5 days depending on your process. So you add another 7 to 15 days on top of that, depending on your own personal processes. Some will be shorter. So the total time for the above exercise is about 107 working days of information to get this information in the Excel spreadsheet. With the scripted approach through the API, the time and cost can be significantly reduced, including gathering the data, time to coordinate change management process, performing a cleanup of the ecosystem, etc. So even if we estimate and give ourselves 1 day to run the script, because we don't need to sit there and watch the script works automatically. So if we give it 1 day to run the script, it runs on its own. Then we add the time for any kind of coordination, change management processes, and implementation in your system, your 7 to 15 days, just like the last slide showed. We get a difference of 16 working days from start to finish versus 107. So that's huge improvement by using a scripted approach. In the example exercise, and we did this on our live servers, we were able to complete the following with no outages because we were able to validate the current state after each cleanup. We removed the following. Policies were reduced from 353 to 195. Configuration profiles were reduced from 125 to 55. The packages were reduced from 134 to 95. The scripts were reduced from 125 to 52. As we did the process, we did manually go in and delete and remove everything that we needed to. And I also made a backup of everything that we took off the server, which is just good form. So the next thing I'd like to do is show you a demo of the script I actually created and show you the Excel spreadsheet and the data that it put out to give you an idea of how this all looks in production. So the first thing is, after you run the script by entering the script name .py, the script is going to ask you for your JAMF API credentials. So you type in your credentials. So there's our JAMF credentials. It's going to ask you for your JAMF API username. And then it's going to ask you for your password. So let me type that in. And it does a little check to make sure you've entered your username, your password, and your instance URL correctly. And it shows here, user input is okay, so we can connect the JFI. Moving on. First question in this is the main sheets that you want to connect to. So it says, do you want to use the default file name and path for the report? So I say yes to this, and it will use the default file name. It's now going to show you, the script is going to show you what the path name is and where it's going to save it. And if that's okay, you just say yes. There'll be all yes or no questions for this script. So we set the file name. Now we look at the sheets that we're including. Do you include the JAMF computer section? Yes or no? For the sake of this report, we're going to say yes. We're going to turn on all the features for the sake of this demonstration. Do you want to include the JAMF policy section? This is the JAMF policies, packages, target groups, and things, and we say yes. Do we want to include the JAMF configuration profile section? We say yes. And again, for the packages to policies, we say yes. And the scripts to policies, we say yes. That completes the sections for the Excel spreadsheet of what we want to do. Now we have individual options in those individual sheets. So for here, we have the option of, do we want to filter for one computer? Do we want to filter by a smart group? Or do we want to use all computers? Now, I just must warn you, it's better to do it for one computer or a smart group of computers, because if you do it for all computers and you have a large instance, it will take a long time to complete. So we're going to just do this for one computer. It's going to ask you for the computer ID to put in, and I'll put in the computer ID that we use for testing. The next step is it's going to say, do you want to include JAMF computer hardware in the report? And we say yes for sake of testing to show in this demo. It's now going to ask us, do we want computer hardware file vault users? This will tell us what users are file vault or not file vault, but we're going to say yes for a demo. Do we want to see if the local hardware accounts info in the report? Do we want a list of the local accounts? We say yes for the demo. Now, do we want to see if the list of local accounts are LDAP accounts as well by connecting to the JIM server? Again, for the demo, we're going to say yes. Then the script goes out and checks for your JIM server and gives you a list of JIM servers. We only have one, but it's going to give you a list of JIM servers that you can select. And here I'm going to select number 1 since we only have one. Now we're in the computer info group membership section. Do you want the hardware computer group membership info in the report? So do we want to know what computer groups these belong to? Again, for the demo, we say yes. Configuration profile, again, we say yes, same as the group membership for a demo. That takes care of the computer info section. We move on to the policies. So the first question is, do we want to know if the policy is in self-service or not? We're going to say yes for the demo. Do we want to know what targets we have for the policy? We say yes for the demo. And what exclusions? We say yes for exclusions for the demo. Do we want to see what packages are in the policy? We say yes. Do we want to see what scripts are in this policy? We say yes. Do we want to see the configuration profile section now? Again, same questions. Do we want to see a list of the targets in the configuration profiles? We say yes. Do we want to see a list of exclusions of the configuration profiles? We say yes for the demo. And then now we're into the packages and policy section, packages section, excuse me. This is going to see if we want to include the pre-stage packages in the policy info report as well as just the packages. So again, for the demo, we say here yes. That starts to run the report, and as you see, the information starts to come through, and we are going to skip ahead to the actual Excel spreadsheet in 2 seconds. And here is our file that was outputted, our Excel report for Thursday, August 11th at 1:33. In the report, you have the different tabs: computer info, policy info, configuration profile info, packages to policy info, and scripts to policy info. These coincide with the yes and no answer questions that you answered previously. In the JAMF computer info, I have colored the different sections here just to make it easier to see, because it rates what type of the information it's been given, what the computer name is, serial number, etc. So as we go through, we have our computer info, our serial number. We have our hardware info, which is in yellow, which is what we turn on and off for our yes/no question, hardware info. We then have our file vault info, which we see is one computer. We then have our group membership info, which as we scroll over, we have our local account info here. Our local account info will tell us if it's an Active Directory account. So true, false, true. So there's 2 Active Directory accounts on here. Excuse me, this is the admin account, and it'll also tell if it's in LDAP, which only one of these is in LDAP. We then look over and see the groups that this computer belongs to, and if they're smart groups or static groups. And then very last, we can see that if these computer configuration profile groups are here, and what this computer belongs to. So as you see, for a simple computer, you can use this to generate information on what groups quickly it belongs to, or as we have done it. In the past, we wanted to see what file vault users were on the machine, what admin users were on the machine, and if we needed to create local admin users or not. Again, putting everything just in one clear place for the computer info. The next tab, or the sheet we have, is very important. It's a policy info tab. This is just 2 colors based on the different policies. So this will show you all the information for each policy. So this is policy 5, this is policy 22, etc. In these policies, as we go through, we can see, and let me change the view here to make it a little bit easier for all of us to see. As we go through, we can see there's policies, self-service info. If there's target group info, it'll say it. If there's scripts, it'll say it. If there's exclusion groups, as we scroll down, You'll see this one has 2 packages, a target group and a self-service group for this policy here. As we scroll down and we get to other policies, we can see, if I get to a big one here, this one here has a policy, has a couple groups, a couple of target groups, and then has a policy script. Again, you can see how this can be very useful in generating information. So here's one down here that I'll show you that has, stop moving, mouse. Here's one down here at the bottom that has a couple of exclusion groups. So it's got a self-service group, a policy with targets, exclusions, and a package. So let's use this one because it's pretty big one. So as we come over, we know the name of it. Here's the ID. We look at the category that it's in, which is here. Again, we're following it over. If it is a, just grab, I apologize, at the top we have to grab. I'm going to grab the top. If the policy is in self-service, if it's not in self-service, what's the self-service name? What's the all target group? So as we go down to the one we were looking at, this will tell us that this is in self-service. This is the name in self-service. It'll tell us true or false for smart groups. This is all for the individual computer targets. And as we scroll over again, we can go farther and look at the static group or smart group here, where this is in a static group. We see it's a static group by false, and then we look over even farther, and we see that there's a package here that's connected to this. This is very useful, and we were able to cut our policies in half by using this because we could see in one Excel spreadsheet what our information was and what connected to what very quickly. And this was something also we could share with other managers and people that knew what we needed to have in our system, but didn't necessarily know what went with what. So it made it easy to share information and mark off what we needed to remove or not remove, or just as general information. Configuration profile, I'm going to bring the view up again. Basically the same thing. It gives us what the target groups, the profile, and like for here we have a profile, a target group, and an exclusion group for these terminal settings, let's say. So again, it shows you the configuration profile name. It'll show you the category that it's in case you want to categorize something. It'll show you your target group ID and the target group name that it's in, if that target group is a smart group. And then, of course, as you get down here, it'll tell you your exclusion group, which is here, your exclusion group ID, and if that exclusion group is a smart group or not. Basically, that's how that information works. Very simple. If we look down here on another one, we have a target group. We have some exclusions, it looks like here. These are computer groups. Let's take a look. These are all exclusion computers and exclusion groups. So here on this one, we have one target group. Here's our category. We have one target group here. It's a smart group, obviously. We are excluding this policy or this configuration profile from these individual computers, and these are the computer IDs. And then these are the exclusion groups here for this policy, as well as whether they are smart or static groups. So there you see that's how the configuration profiles look. Again, very easy to figure out what you have and a very nice way to view it. Packages to policy info will show us what packages are being used or not used. Here, I highlight just the packages that are unused. So in the green here, this package, Microsoft Edge, is an old package. It can be safely deleted because it does not belong to any policies. If the package is used, it'll say if it's a regular policy or a pre-stage policy, it will say the package name, the package ID, what the file name is, what the policy ID is, and what policy it belongs to. And then, of course, if this is for a pre-stage and pre-stage policy, if you use that. But here it will show you we have a few packages left that can be deleted safely because they are no longer used in any policies. Same is true for the JAMF scripts to policy info. All our scripts are used. That's why there's no highlighting on them. But as you see here, this gives you the same information. The script ID, script name. I'll just zoom in slightly so we can see it better. Script ID, script name, script file name, the policy ID, and what policy it's being used by. Again, nice simple way to generate that information, and we were able to delete half the scripts we used by running this report and seeing what was being used and what wasn't being used and what was old. So there you have it. That is what the Excel spreadsheet looks like. You can download my script on my GitHub, which we'll provide the link for if you'd like, and you can use this if you like. It requires at least Python 3.9 plus. Some of the other dependencies are already on the system, but if you know how to run Python on your system, you'll be able to run this script. The dependencies some of the dependencies for Python, like the request library, will auto-install if it's needed with the proper settings. But again, you need to have a working Python 3.9 or higher version on your system. Well, that's about it. And I would say thank you for listening, and hopefully this gives you some ideas in a way to do a cleanup. My script is available on my GitHub if you want to use that for your environments. It's already built. It's working. And I thank you for taking your time to watch my session.